Dumped over FaceTime after 8 months, I wondered, am I crazy? I tried being logical while she emphasized emotions, but when she called me controlling over a shepherd's pie video, it all fell apart. Was I really the bad guy? The truth is murky. Reading time 20-30 minutes. I will attempt to be as objective as possible in this post while explaining the situation. It has made me feel as though I am a crazy person, that I am the only sane and rational one, and I am genuinely left wondering if I am at fault or a bad person. It was the best relationship either of us has ever been in, although we both recognized that it was still toxic. We are both 25, almost 26. We met on Bumble while she was in my small town in the south helping her friend move in. She lives in a major city up north. We reflect each other like a mirror, except that I prioritize logic while she prioritizes her emotions. We began as a long-distance relationship. Initially, I flew up there every other weekend plus some days off, usually not exceeding 5 weeks apart. We had a fairy-tale first date with immense chemistry and a kiss that felt like a scene from a movie and all of that. We would indulge on dates and buy things for each other, doing whatever our hearts desired, and we made each other laugh consistently. We created so many great memories through parades, aquarium visits, small outings, and more. She has many close male friends, but after moving to her city and meeting them all, I realized that their relationships with her are strictly platonic, supported by the fact that she has known them for years and has never prioritized their time over mine, rarely seeing them without me. On our first date, she openly mentioned that she had cheated on all her previous partners when they upset her, but she claimed that she had changed and no longer engaged in that behavior. After she cheated on her last boyfriend of 3 months with her manager at that time, who I will refer to as AN, and bragged about it to him, he overdosed on fentanyl. She now has his date of death tattooed on her neck. This prompted me to ask to check her phone one evening while I was visiting, and she complied. I found nothing inappropriate. I would ask to check her phone once during each visit to ensure that I was not deluding myself until I moved up there, at which point she requested that I stop doing that, insisting that I should trust her, and I agreed. I made what I believe is my only serious mistake in the relationship within the first month. While walking down the sidewalk, a woman was clearly checking me out. Once she was out of earshot, I looked at my girlfriend and said, "That woman just gave me flirtatious eyes," having blurted it out to encourage conversation with no ill intent. She informed me that this was actually a manipulative behavior meant to bolster my value, and I admitted that she was correct, leading her to establish a rule that I could not speak about other women in that manner. She posted about me once on her social media, specifically on her Instagram story for National Boyfriend's Day, 3 months into the relationship. At that time, I had flown her out to Miami for a luxurious vacation involving a really nice hotel, a cocktail yacht cruise with a sunset view of the skyline, a visit to the seaquarium, delicious food, and all that. A pause in the story. R is her longest friend, one she has had since kindergarten, but she has not seen her in 8 years since joining the military and relocating south. R is 26. While we were in Miami at a nice restaurant, her friend R was experiencing a difficult phase in her life. She divorced her husband due to his alcoholism, and the beautiful house they had purchased was severely damaged by 2 hurricanes and was uninhabitable, leaving her nearly homeless while her children stayed with his parents. While she was in the restroom, R expressed her distress over matters I would rather not share here, self-harming in a bathtub and threatening to commit horrific acts against herself. We remained at the table for 3 hours while I aided her in calming down. Thus, I intervened during R's suicide attempt, although apparently she was unaware. I also constantly inquired about R's well-being to my girlfriend to ensure she was okay. While we were exchanging snaps with R, I noticed she had ceased communication with someone named C 2 weeks prior, whom I did not recognize and had never heard about. I asked my girlfriend to check the chat, and she showed me a message where she had sent him a "Hey with charm" filter photo, sticking her tongue out and surrounded by hearts while attending a wedding she had been invited to before meeting me. She claimed she had sent it to him by accident, intending to send it to me, which I found plausible, given that she was inebriated and has severe ADHD, often sending messages to the wrong recipients. However, she continued exchanging pictures with him for weeks, with hearts circling her head, engaging in intimate gestures that we shared while being more enthusiastic about conversing with him than with me, which included many more emojis. I forgave her because I hadn't seen her in a while, and we were a month apart during our long-distance phase, so I assumed she was feeling lonely. It took her another month or two to seem as excited to talk to me as she was to him, but I requested that she block him, which she did. She has not communicated with him since, and we have moved past it. I also noted that AN sent her a lewd photo and proposed that they hook up, to which she responded with eye emojis and stated, "I can't. I am with someone I truly care about," and she blocked him as well. 4 months in, while we were still long distance, a similar situation arose where a friend from her previous workplace invited her out for sushi. She claimed he was gay, so she went with him. She was surprised to discover that he was actually bisexual and interpreted it as a date. She still spoke with him for 5 hours and then returned to her parents' house where she stays, which I can verify. She kept all lines of communication open with him afterward and ignored him when he suggested taking her out to New York City. She has experienced sexual trauma, dislikes sexual intimacy, and performing sexual acts, is anorgasmic, having tried all sizes from 3 to 9 inches with 20 partners and various toys without success, and had intercourse with me on average once a month. I attempted not to complain because I love her, despite my ideal frequency being as much as possible. This had created complications in her previous situationship, marking it as the primary reason for their breakup, aside from his emotional abuse. She accused me of being emotionally abusive when she ended our relationship. Strangely, I had to block the man who brutally sexually assaulted her and caused her trauma from her Snapchat when I was having a difficult day while visiting. She was inquiring whether she could hook up with his girlfriend. He asked if I had a penis to use on his girl, and she left it on open. Odd. I told her she could sleep with any woman while we were together, but it still felt strange to me. I moved up there 5 months into the relationship. There were constant complaints from her regarding every little thing during the first 2 weeks, but that eventually subsided. Our first major argument begins here. I thought we had an incredible New Year's Eve. I told her that once and she did not respond, so I assumed she disagreed, but that was all right. I invited her to watch the ball drop in Times Square, but she preferred a local celebration and I agreed. We attended the fireworks display in our city. Although the Uber driver was 10 minutes late and we only caught a glimpse for about 3 minutes, at least we saw them from the warm car while sheltered from the rain. However, waiting in the rain for another Uber for 20 minutes was a different story, but we cuddled for warmth and shared one of the cigarettes she had brought from South Korea. After returning to my apartment, I ordered 100 of her favorite Asian dish for us to share so she would have ample leftovers. We enjoyed drinks of soju and watched our favorite show. We watched the ball drop on Hulu and kissed, then cuddled to sleep. It was blissful. New Year's Day unfolded differently. We enjoyed early activities. We drove to the city's nicest park to play soccer with friends. I spent 100 on her at Target and bought her a pink drink from Starbucks, and I made my favorite dish, shepherd's pie, with ingredients sourced from the best butcher in my city while she napped. Suddenly, I had an idea. Relaxing at my place could become monotonous, as we typically would cuddle, talk, play video games, and try new foods. Her friends whom I had met had made me feel really good during our interactions so far. I suggested that she post on her Snapchat story that I had cooked her shepherd's pie, which could spark some nice conversation and feel-good moments from people before we slept. I had no ulterior motives, genuinely. So I woke her up from her nap to inform her that the food was ready, and she joined me. I asked her to do me a favor before we ate, which was to post that story. She seemed quite hesitant. With a disheartened okay, she took a video of the shepherd's pie and me giving a thumbs up and smiling, captioning it "Chef my name." I hoped for something a bit more romantic, and perhaps I was out of line for this, but I requested that she caption it in a way that included me being her boyfriend. She changed the caption to "When he cooks you dinner," stating that she didn't want to indicate that I was her boyfriend. I was on the verge of giving up and telling her to forget it, not to post it, but I politely insisted, "Could you please say something like 'My boyfriend cooked me shepherd's pie'?" In anger, she posted it, took the food, and stormed off to eat without thanking me. I was somewhat taken aback and went to join her for dinner. Now, she is usually not one to express her gratitude, but something seemed amiss. I entered and told her that I did not understand why she was so upset over something so minor, particularly after all the fun we had enjoyed over the past 2 days and everything I had done. I walked past her to fetch napkins and noticed her angrily tapping away at someone on Snapchat, reading negative comments. We are incredibly transparent with one another, so I inquired about what she was doing, and she revealed she was complaining about me to her friend R. I was shocked to discover that she spoke negatively about me behind my back. She confessed to communicating with R whenever she was displeased with my actions instead of addressing me directly. I asked if I could see what she was saying, and she proudly handed me her phone. I cannot recall verbatim what she said to R, as it was an emotionally distressing experience for me to witness, but it was something like, "He is being extremely controlling, he asked me to do this and that and I didn't want to." That was a valid point, and I was unaware that I had been controlling. However, R's response threw me off balance. R advised her, "Girl, run, he sounds like a red flag, he resembles all my exes. You're in a toxic relationship, and I despise what this relationship is doing to you as a friend. He is a narcissist for using what you've done the past 2 days as a way to deflect, and I would not feel safe with him meeting my children," and then sent her pictures of her children out of the blue to guilt trip her. I took a moment to breathe and told her she needed to confront R. I said it was fine if she believed I was a toxic red flag, but labeling me a narcissist and assuming I could pose a threat to her children was crossing a line. considering the only issue I perceived in our relationship was an offhand comment that lacked any physical implication, something I would never do. She began to cry and insisted that I did not want her to be her own person, then dashed to the bathroom where she remained for an hour. She removed the story and returned. We ate the shepherd's pie while watching our favorite show, but at this point all these issues along with everything in the relationship began to weigh heavily on me and I started crying. She felt somewhat guilty and thanked me for the food, asking how I prepared it, attempting to engage in conversation about the show and so on. I did not reveal it to her, but I did not want to be close to her at that moment and felt genuinely betrayed. The next morning when she needed to return home, I expressed that I felt strange since the previous night, but I did not want it to affect our relationship as I carried her bags to her car, kissed her, and told her I loved her. The second major argument transpired when she asked me one day, "Would you remain in a relationship with me if I relocated 3 hours away for 2 to 3 years for college?" At that point in our relationship, we had only been together for 6 months, so I responded no, obviously not. A significant reason I moved here to start a new life was to close the distance in our long-distance relationship and be closer to her. She became profoundly upset by my response, expressing that she believed this was what would happen. This made me cry and she seemed to resent that I cried for some reason. She consulted every single one of her major friends, sharing what I had said. She then proudly reported back that I was a bad boyfriend for not being willing to endure that because all her friends would do so. She mentioned that this included R, E, and A, although there were a few more. As I attempted to explain my viewpoint when I saw, and still see, as the only rational perspective, supported by my therapist, she argued with me for 3 consecutive days about this, to the extent that I became exhausted and developed cold sores from stress. This led to 2 moments that provided significant insight into the relationship for me. Firstly, after she visited my apartment that weekend, while we were lying in bed cuddling, I expressed that it was irrational for her to argue with me for 3 consecutive days over what was essentially nothing, that it traumatized me, and I asked her to refrain from sharing our relationship issues with R. I realized that R's constant probing contributed to her drawn-out emotional reactions. As if she were using a Jedi mind trick on her to vent her frustrations with her own life onto our relationship. She broke down in tears, stating this was due to childhood trauma from feeling unheard. She promised to avoid sharing our relationship matters with R. As far as I can tell, she has upheld this promise, but I have not been able to confirm it, and honestly, I suspect after our most recent argument she may have reverted to discussing our issues with her. Secondly, and very importantly, it made me recognize something about E and A if they tell her I am a bad boyfriend for something as reasonable and normal as not wanting to invest 2 to 3 years of my life with a girlfriend who lives 3 hours away while we have only been together for 6 months. It solidifies my belief that they are nothing but enablers, willing to provide blind support except in extreme cases, and I have gathered further evidence from her recent outing with. Our third major argument, which ultimately ended the relationship for her, arose from a joke I told the other day. The joke, as accurately as I can recall it while including my laughing face over Snapchat, was, I walked out of the barber shop at 4 p.m. and a homeless woman was outside. She saw me, her eyes lit up, she tucked her hair behind her ear and said, "Good morning." I simply responded with "morning." The humor derives from the unusual fact that she greeted me with "good morning" at 4 p.m. I enjoy making my girlfriend laugh and thought she would find this amusing. 8 months into the relationship, communication can feel stale over text, with repetitive messages daily, so I strive to diversify our interactions in any way possible. Clearly, I am not attracted to the woman because of reasons I find too sensitive to elaborate on regarding hygiene and health related to her homelessness. This should not require clarification. She became angry with me, reminding me of the moment from 8 months prior when she established a rule regarding my speaking about other women in that way. Apparently, I violated this arbitrary, easily forgotten rule by conveying the joke, and she chastised me for having done it twice now. At this stage, I experienced my first significant emotional reaction in the relationship, aside from the moments of crying. I FaceTimed her and exclaimed, "What the heck is wrong with you?" She informed me that she was at physical therapy, which she was, and I replied, "I don't care," following which she hung up. I stated that we had not fought in 2 months, and she was upset over a joke that anyone else hyperbole, but at least most secure and rational individuals in my opinion would have found humorous essentially nothing, and that she was unnecessarily escalating the situation for no valid reason since she craves drama, something I had addressed with her repeatedly. Days passed and I assumed it was trivial, at least it was for me. I was working at the counter one day when my job required me to generate 5 leads a day with a flexible schedule, occasionally leading me to complete them until midnight. I communicated this to her. She said she planned to play pool with E while she was visiting, and I responded okay. Upon her return, one of her first comments was, "I didn't invite you so I could talk about you to E," which surprised me as I thought she hadn't invited me because she realized I needed to generate leads. This left me feeling a bit unsettled, so I inquired about their conversation and she stated stuff. At that moment, I knew she had spoken negatively about me to E based on her demeanor, and although I remained calm and rational, I pressed her for more details. While I respected her right to remain private, I felt the need to know what was said due to the potential threat it posed to our relationship. She shared, and I cannot verify everything that was communicated, that she brought up the previous argument we had over the joke, and that she concurred with E's perspective. That night we attended my girlfriend's game, where she had invited E and A. I noticed she acted distant toward me whenever we were with friends, giving me a half hug instead of a full one, and asking me to wait in the car while she and E went inside Wawa later that night on the drive home. After the game, I perceived a change in E's behavior toward me. She seemed different in her actions and body language. The last time she saw me, she could not stop talking and gave me a big hug to say goodbye. However, now whenever she looked at me, it felt uneasy, and when I repositioned myself to get close, assuming she wanted to hug me, she pulled away. I immediately congratulated her after the game on her performance, but she avoided responding twice, claiming her performance was abysmal. I couldn't shake the feeling that my girlfriend had spoken negatively about me to her. I had politely and gently requested her 3 times to cease involving our issues with her friends and to stop texting them, as she weaponized their opinions against me. I explained that if she continued this behavior, we would enter a negative feedback loop, leading her friends to dislike me since she portrayed me unfavorably without revealing my side, and using that as the impetus to end the relationship. Instead, I suggested that she could form her own judgments, compare them against more neutral or forthright parties, and then reflect on the situation without airing our private matters to her entire inner circle continuously. I recommended that if an issue was significant enough to risk ending the relationship, she could share it with those closest to her, but any ranting or venting should be directed at random acquaintances I would never meet, rather than the individuals with whom I was expected to spend time. She resisted this. I also confessed to her that the only aspects of the relationship I would change were eliminating R from her life and refraining from relying on friends over minor conflicts. I expressed my desire for her to move in and share rent as soon as possible, as we could work towards having a child, but I was willing to wait to avoid being selfish, understanding that she had her own aspirations. She had a tendency to label me as crazy and suggest I needed therapy whenever she was upset with me. Once I finally sought therapy, my therapist validated all my crazy beliefs, assuring me that I was not the problem, she was. My therapist has 30 years of experience in couples counseling, whereas hers primarily specializes in nutrition with no expertise in couples counseling. I awoke to this message 8 months into our relationship. I would like to take a break from our relationship this weekend. I need time to reevaluate and think about what has been occurring between us. I would like some time until at least Tuesday to discuss this with my therapist. She has been on vacation and unavailable to talk. Please refrain from attending my game tonight or the barbecue on Saturday. I cannot prevent you from attending pickup on Sunday, but if you plan to go, please let me know and I will skip it. I do not wish to engage in back-and-forth discussions about this. This is my decision, one I have considered thoroughly, and I will not change my mind. Please respect my wishes. I granted her space. On Wednesday at 5 p.m. I texted, "It's past Tuesday, what's the news?" She requested a few minutes to finish work before FaceTiming me. When she called sitting in her car, she explained that she had formed a decision over the weekend but procrastinated in informing me until that day. She read a speech to me clearly articulated by her friends that we were incompatible and needed to part ways to work on ourselves. I called her out, stating that it had been written by her friends just like the text she sent me, and she acknowledged that it was but insisted it was her decision. I suggested we could continue the relationship if I refrained from voicing any critiques or complaints. The only reason I did so was that I wanted us both to feel at ease for the long term. She had expressed on our first date that she had commitment issues and was looking for a few years, so I thought I might be able to change her mind. She labeled this as toxic and dishonest, asserting that we would be harming ourselves by staying together, claiming that I approached everything logically and she emotionally. She concluded that we had exhausted our efforts over 8 months and that I had hurt her feelings significantly with the joke and my outburst, prompting her desire to end the relationship. She mentioned that she shared my viewpoint, including parts of what I have noted here with a man named G, whom I had known as my best friend since moving here but was acquainted with through her. She has known him a year longer, and her therapist. She stated that everyone but G deemed me emotionally abusive. Am I? G merely claimed he sided with her and exited the WhatsApp group chat. I asked what everyone thought about the shepherd's pie incident excluding G. She stated that they all concluded I was being controlling, manipulative, and overstepping her boundaries, and that her emotional response was justified because I had been too pushy. She acknowledged that she was mistaken about the college discussion. She informed me that everyone believed it was normal and healthy to share problems with friends. I did my utmost to explain to her that she tends to weaponize their opinions against me, that she constructed every issue that led to our downfall by prioritizing R over me and weaponizing her friends' opinions to undermine me, then expecting me to socialize with them. She responded with silence. I inquired about their thoughts regarding her emotional cheating situation and no one mentioned it. I expressed that this indicated all I needed to know. She was surrounded by enablers. I provided her with some advice. 1. Don't embellish and claim you have sex every 2 weeks ideally. Indicate that you have sex only once a month, which is my calculation, and be truthful about not enjoying sex at all and being anorgasmic when it becomes relevant to her next partner. 2. I reiterated what I had said about the negative cycle of relying on her friends against her boyfriend during every disagreement, suggesting that she needs a doormat or yes man rather than someone who values themselves. 3. I advised against cheating. And 4. I recommended she wait to sort through the rest of her life, including considering her college plans before re-entering the dating scene, as it appeared to me that her primary focus lay with soccer and friends. She told me she did not perceive anything wrong with me, acknowledging that I possess a good heart, but believed we were toxic together, a sentiment I somewhat agreed with. I assured her that I would not block her unless I saw a man on any of her social media stories or posts, as that would deeply upset me, considering she had only ever posted me on her stories and not as a permanent post. I pledged never to block her number so we could communicate in the future, stating that I would not overwhelm her phone with messages begging her to take me back or anything of that nature. I wanted to keep an open line of communication for which she did not respond. I requested that she come to pick up her belongings that weekend and she agreed. I said, "I love you, cheese girl," and concluded with, "Guess what?" before hanging up our inside joke. If anyone has any thoughts, whether blunt or not, about this situation, I would greatly appreciate hearing them. Thank you for reading. Story 2. My girlfriend's emotional turmoil from a tragic past is causing our relationship to implode. One moment she reassured me I was the special one, but now she's cold and distant. I just don't feel like we did in October. I'm torn between love and frustration. Can we recover? In October of last year, I, 35 male, began a relationship with my current girlfriend, 26 female. We have known each other for 2 years and have always had a very good connection, sharing jokes and moments and constantly messaging each other. It was pleasant. However, we were both in other relationships at the time, and I am a temporary contractor, so things did not develop naturally. At some point last year, she began asking questions about the future. For some reason, this gave me the courage to hold her hand during a movie date. She grabbed my arm and thus began our journey together. She has attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, post-traumatic stress disorder, and likely other behavioral issues, as her father committed suicide when she was a child. Her brother is autistic and has attempted suicide twice, which causes her significant anxiety. Additionally, her mother is terminally ill and she is now a caregiver. Her father holds great significance in her life. Her profile picture shows an old photo of her as a child with her father. When I presented her with a list of important dates in our love story, she pointed out that I had forgotten the most significant one, which was her father's date of death. This gives you a glimpse into her background. Furthermore, we both work at the same place and have a very busy job from January to April, which is just now beginning to conclude. Moreover, she is also studying. Here are some important events in chronological order. For 1 month, everything felt like a dream. We made future plans and bucket lists, eagerly anticipating our time together and texting each other constantly. We were completely in love. We informed our families during the first week about each other and told our colleagues at work. No one was surprised given our bond, as they had already been joking about us for a long time. As we created a bucket list of future plans, she told me that she didn't view me as just a boyfriend, but that she began contemplating her life and realized she might have found someone special without even realizing it. We shared past moments that hinted at our love for each other. It felt special. Then the problems began. The office. During our first weeks, I received a friend request on Facebook. I didn't recognize the name at first, and then I realized it was a mutual friend of my girlfriend's, one of her exes she had mentioned. I saw a picture of them together, which was public, and I mistakenly interpreted the date as 2023 instead of 2021, leading me to think she was lying to me. I messaged her about what I saw and became distant. She called, but I did not answer. Later, I realized my misunderstanding and called her back to apologize. She told me she had stopped crying and that everything was fine. Our first official event or date as an unofficial couple was at a casino. While at the roulette table, she mentioned that her ex used to always bet on zero. I felt overwhelmed because it seemed strange to mention her ex on a first date. I fell silent and my facial expression changed. She noticed and asked what was wrong. I told her it was unnecessary to bring up her ex. She apologized and we moved on. I forgot about it, but evidently she did not. In November, she received her master's degree diploma. I took her out for dinner, bought her a gift, and congratulated her. I officially asked her to be my girlfriend and she agreed. She appeared to be happy. We took a weekend trip to Berlin, our first trip together, and everything went well. The only issue arose in the morning when we woke up. She turned her back to me and began scrolling on her phone. After 5 minutes, 10 minutes, and then 15 minutes, I started to feel bothered and suggested that we cuddle since we had limited time together. She agreed. I did not think it was a strange question to ask. However, months later, she brought this up as a conflict. I later realized that for someone with ADHD, needing alone time is essential, and I should have respected that. Yet she never mentioned this at the time, nor did she address many issues. On the way back, I asked about her Christmas plans and when she would be having dinner with her family. She mentioned that her brother would probably be working. Then December arrived. We had planned a long weekend trip. I wrote her a nice Christmas greeting card. The day before she was supposed to leave, she sent me a voice message to let me know that her mother had broken her hand and that she had to cancel the trip. I told her that life happens, reminded her to focus on her mother and studies, and reassured her that I would be there for her. The next day, I visited her to comfort her and suggested it would be nice to go away someday for a Christmas market. That was when she opened up to me for the first time. The evening before, I asked her what time I should come over since she visited her mother every morning. She didn't mention a specific time, so I asked again, wanting to swim before coming over and needing to know the time slot. Again, she didn't give a specific time and said I could come whenever I was ready. I planned to arrive around 11:00 to 11:30 and told her I would message her when I was leaving. I ended up getting home later than I thought, around 11:30, and as I was preparing myself, my phone was on WhatsApp. Meanwhile, she had texted me twice asking if I was on my way. I didn't see her messages as I was busy and sent her a voice message when I got in the car, noticing her texts around 11:45. When I arrived, she had put on meditation music. The day itself was fine, but on the drive back, she asked if I noticed that she had turned off her WhatsApp status. I hadn't seen it and she requested that we talk. Once we were home, she began crying and expressed that she was stressed because I hadn't responded to her. She explained that she becomes anxious when I'm online but don't reply to her messages, which triggers negative thoughts. Also, she stressed when I messaged her when she hadn't responded promptly, although I never accused her of this. She suggested that disabling last seen and online notifications would help her. I was surprised but didn't contest her reasoning, saying that she should do whatever helps, and I consoled her. She received my Christmas card and was pleased with it, feeling warm inside. Then came January, our busy season. I spoke with her and told her that it was going to be challenging. We were both working hard, accumulating a lot of overtime and feeling stressed. We agreed to set aside at least one day per week to maintain our relationship. She admitted that she often leaned on her friends during busy seasons and that she had quit doing sports. I wanted to tell her that overworking isn't healthy, but I didn't want to interfere in her life too much. I decided to let it be. Fridays became our designated day when she would come over after her studies and spend the night. Early in January, we had an extra date on a Monday. I bought her 2 gifts that she had liked during our Christmas trip. She was very happy with them and we both felt good. A couple of weeks later, she returned the favor by giving me a gift, which made me happy. However, from that point onward, things became more challenging. I am not usually a person who expresses emotions openly like many men. The Christmas card was one such instance. I had been preparing a book containing our story, details from the beginning, our future activities, and what I admire about her. I intended to present it to her as a Valentine's Day gift. I asked her to keep her schedule clear for Valentine's Day and her birthday. She told me that Valentine's Day was not significant for her. I simply wanted to offer her some additional love and attention, and I had prepared something special in my mind. Her reaction felt incorrect to me. I raised my concerns and she felt attacked, which led to a verbal conflict. Eventually, we agreed that we could do something together, but it would not be commercial. I changed my mind and decided to purchase her something else, shifting the book to become a birthday present instead. The dynamics of our relationship began to shift. I stopped sending many affectionate emojis and she followed suit. We started communicating less, with most messages originating from my end. Eventually, I reached my limit and chose not to message her at all. She did not text me for 4 days, no messages, not on WhatsApp or through our work chat. On the 5th day, I exited the office and saw her outside. She had come in for overtime. She was cautious around colleagues and I was being cold, simply saying hi as I walked past her. However, she pulled me closer and kissed me unexpectedly. This surprise caught me off guard. I reached out to her on our work app, inquiring if we could go home together, which was fine by her. Outside, she hugged me and expressed that she was very tired from work, her mother's situation, and studies. She was relieved that she didn't feel the urge to be overly social around me, noting that her social battery was empty and that she didn't want to message anyone at all. It was easier for her to refrain from messaging to avoid additional stress and see me on Fridays when things were calmer. Okay, I accepted that. She also mentioned that she had one appointment on the upcoming Friday, but she canceled it to see me. That Friday, we went out for dinner. This was about 3 weeks ago. I was fasting and we ended up being late. Her meal arrived, but mine had not yet. She began eating her food immediately. I expected her to offer me a single piece from her plate, but she didn't. I felt very upset but didn't comment on it. We walked home and spent a typical evening together. I asked her if everything was all right, and she replied that everything was fine but emphasized that our sex life was a significant issue. Our intimate relationship had not been satisfactory. During our initial dates, she had been very interested in intimacy, even permitting me to touch her in public spaces like the theater and the car. We had purposely chosen to wait to have sex, but when we finally did, I couldn't finish due to time pressure. Up until that point, we had been sexting, but when it came to intimacy in the bedroom, her performance was lacking. I explained that I enjoyed foreplay and oral sex, which we had hardly engaged in. She performed oral sex the first time and again months later when I requested it. Yet she often appeared distant in bed, merely asking me to become aroused without any foreplay and to have sex with her quickly. This behavior, combined with relationship issues and her distant nature, not to mention only being intimate on Fridays after an exhausting workweek, led to performance anxiety. Sometimes I struggled to maintain my erection, and I had never thought she viewed this as a problem until she brought it up. I recognized it as an issue but hoped that once the busy season ended and we relieved our stress, it would improve. The day after our dinner, I texted her to check in and see how she was doing, and she assured me that everything was sorted with her plans. She replied with a love emoji and a sticker of us together. At that moment, I felt a breaking point. She had never addressed me like that before, as if I were merely a friend. A few weeks prior, I had inadvertently referred to her by her name, and she had requested that I not do that as it felt weird to her. I acquiesced to her request and had not done so since. This situation felt similar. I didn't want to react angrily, so I simply replied, "Hey." She responded that my message had one too many E's. This struck me as a very peculiar reaction. I acknowledged my mistake and called her by her name. She read my message but didn't respond. The next morning, I sent her a long text expressing how unhappy I felt, how emotionally distant she seemed, and how I didn't even realize she cared for me. She suggested that we should discuss these issues in person rather than over WhatsApp, questioning why I thought she didn't care since she is my girlfriend. We discussed it, but the conversation led to no resolution. She again expressed that she felt stressed and couldn't message me, providing no further explanation. I explained my thoughts again, but we reached no agreement. The following day, I texted her expressing my desire to see her. I visited her on Thursday evening. She expressed her unhappiness, stating that this was not how a relationship should feel. She felt continuous stress over everything and had doubts about the future, admitting that her feelings had almost faded. She simply didn't feel the same way as she did in October. We did not reach a conclusion. As I kissed her goodbye, I sent her a message later that night once I arrived home. She responded in the middle of the night, noting she had exams on Tuesday and needed to study. I expressed that I felt bad about everything and suggested we could discuss our issues after her exam. She sent me a message stating that it would be better for her not to come on Friday since she felt overwhelmed and needed to focus on studying. I agreed, assuring her that I would not bother her until Tuesday, and I didn't. That Sunday evening, she reached out to ask how I was and how work was going. I felt mentally exhausted during those 3 days, completely broken. I called her, and when she answered, I told her I was feeling very low and needed to talk. I went to her place, bringing with me the book I had prepared for her birthday. I poured my heart out, expressing how much I loved her, how anxious I had felt at the start of our relationship, and how profound my feelings for her were, everything that I had written in the book that I had never vocalized. She responded somewhat coldly, questioning why I hadn't expressed myself in the past 3 months and why I hadn't allowed myself to be vulnerable. She acknowledged that I had changed significantly, differing from the laid-back guy she had known for the past 2 years. She needed time to process everything. I left the book with her and reiterated that my feelings had always been there, but I struggled with expressing them. She assured me she would read the book after her exams. In the days following, we exchanged normal chit-chat about work. Both of us were busy, and I wondered how she would respond. I asked if she wanted anything special for that Friday, and she replied that she didn't need anything and would call me after her studies. I anticipated that she might break things off, but she didn't. Instead, she explained that she didn't feel well or ready to come over and spend the night, stating that she couldn't pretend as if nothing had happened. I understood. I presented her with 3 options. We could break up, take a break, or come together to talk things through. She felt that breaking up at that point was too severe. She needed time to heal and think. The conversation was productive, filled with some lighthearted moments, and went well. We understood each other's perspectives. I promised not to pressure her, asking whether we could keep chatting casually. She agreed that random chit-chat was acceptable. On Monday, she was also at the office, which is actually this past Monday. Her behavior was strange. She avoided saying hello even when she saw me twice before retreating. I felt devastated. We can have disagreements, but her behavior was concerning. While I was getting coffee in the morning, she came out of her office and I saw her in the mirror. She glanced at me and then turned back. Feeling disheartened, I participated in a meeting with other colleagues, and she walked by and waved at me, to which I smiled back. Later, I was alone in a meeting room when I saw her enter the pantry to grab some fruit. I noticed she saw me and hesitated before turning back. This felt odd. I texted her for the first time that day, mentioning that she seemed hesitant and clarified that I was in a meeting and she was free to come in. She claimed she didn't see me and was just grabbing fruit. That seemed strange, considering there was only a 2-meter distance. Later, she passed by our meeting room with her team, failing to acknowledge me. Even our mutual friends in my team noted it was peculiar. I felt terrible. Frustrated, I approached her room and asked to talk. During our conversation, I told her that the situation felt awkward. She agreed but couldn't provide an explanation. I pressed her about what she meant by needing time, as I did not want to wait for months in such an uncertain situation. She simply wanted to use my deadline for a conclusion, which is this week, and her own deadline. She completes her work on Thursday as time to think over the weekend, which also coincided with her birthday. I accepted this arrangement. I assured her that I care about her well-being and that even if we break up, her health matters to me. She expressed that everything felt overwhelming and began to cry, to which I consoled her. I apologized for the stress I had caused. It was never my intention. She replied that she had been doing fine until she saw me and that her day had taken a turn for the worse again. We then parted ways. I spoke with my colleagues afterwards, one of whom had also witnessed me hugging her. They all concurred that she doesn't need to act in such a childish manner and should at least acknowledge my presence with a hello. I concurred with them. We can experience conflicts and she can feel upset, but I had never yelled at her, insulted her, or threatened her. This behavior is akin to how one treats someone they despise. I sent her an initial message, then deleted it, followed by a voice message later that night detailing my frustrations regarding her behavior. She missed it as she was asleep. I regretted sending the messages and retracted them. The following morning, she inquired about what I had deleted. I explained that I felt bad the previous day and reacted, but then I reconsidered and realized that acting out of emotions was unnecessary, suggesting we should calm down before our next conversation. She didn't read my message. Neither of us sent messages over our work chat. Perhaps she was angry or focused on her assignment. She has always been peculiar with social media. During busy periods, she typically only checks WhatsApp in the morning and before bed, and she sometimes puts herself out of the office during work hours to concentrate. Perhaps it's an ADHD thing, I don't know. Since Monday, we have had no contact. I am feeling mentally low. I am simply tired of her behavior. Monday felt like a line had been crossed. We had a rational discussion on Friday, acting like adults, and then her childish behavior on Monday was baffling. I am at a loss. I don't know how to feel, what to think, or how to resolve things if she won't communicate. I am utterly confused. A part of me suggests breaking up, while another part argues that it all comes down to communication, a lack of time, and external pressures and stress that made us both react this way. Our communication during those 2 days of friendship was flawless, and our feelings in October were genuine. I don't know what to think or what she will decide, nor how I should react. I simply do not know. I just need some general advice regarding her behavior, the reasons behind it, and what steps to take next. Story 3. Crushed on my European colleague for years, but her mixed signals have me second-guessing everything. I want to wrap you in a blanket and cook for you, she says, yet her silence leaves me in limbo. Will I confess my feelings when we share a hotel in months? Hello everyone, I am not publicly out to nearly anyone in my life, so I have no one to turn to for advice or opinions. Here I am. If you are not up for a long read, feel free to skip ahead. I tend to be quite verbose. I am experiencing an incredibly intense crush for one of the first times in my life, and I am in my mid-20s. However, I cannot tell how she feels or if she likes me. I do not even know if she identifies as queer. Yes, I am aware that I could ask her directly, but I wanted to seek guidance here before going that route. To begin with, she lives in Europe and I am in the United States. I have known her for almost 3 years now. We meet in person about twice a year in Europe for work-related events. We are both writers in film. She is 29 years old and has never really dated. Many of her friends are gay men and she is very liberal and open-minded. She has the biggest heart and treats everyone like her best friend, which sometimes makes it difficult to read her intentions. Once we were all drunk, and she and our female friends started making out for fun while stumbling in the street. It was all in good fun, and she quickly grabbed my hand, laughing, and we all ran off like teenagers. We have always texted intermittently over the years, but this past summer, I unexpectedly ran into her at a festival. I literally bumped into her. Although she was staying with other friends, we spent almost all our free time together picnicking, having lunch, clubbing, and enjoying drinks. She bought us pastries for the beach, and we swam and watched the sunrise after an all-nighter in the town. She later texted me saying she wished she had taken pictures of me on the beach because it would have been perfect with the lighting. We sat on the asphalt cross-legged like children and shared gelato. One night she called me in a panic, asking if I had gotten home safely, and our goodbye that last time felt different to me at least. She loves hugs, as do I, so we hugged a lot. I saw her off on a bus and we waved until we could no longer see each other. Then we texted immediately. Although she is fluent, English is not her first language. She speaks about 6 languages, so she sometimes expresses herself in such an adorable way. She said she missed me a lot already and would even miss me when her brain cleared up. We had been running on no sleep for a week. After that, she would send hearts out of the blue. We shared music and exchanged voice messages, during which she would giggle and say she was sending me kisses, oh my heart, and we kept each other updated on our daily lives. Then after a few months, there was radio silence. It lasted through the holidays and I decided not to push it. I had sent the last message and the last thing I wanted to do was annoy her. If she wanted to, she would write. Then one day in January, I received 2 videos totaling about 5 minutes. In them, she apologized and talked about how she is known for being bad at responding to texts but had never been this neglectful. She had some personal issues going on, including a very sick family member she had to take care of and the loss of a stable job. She mentioned that it had been bothering her that we hadn't talked, but she didn't know how to approach me, so she simply pressed record and started talking. She rambled for a while a bit sheepishly and ended the first video. The second one began with her taking a deep breath and saying that what she was trying to convey is that she misses me. Genuinely. She laughed at herself for rambling on for minutes just to tell me that she missed me. She continued to say that she thinks I am an amazing person and that she is extremely happy we reconnected this past summer and was sending me love. Well, I replied with a video of my own that featured my pet. She responded by saying we are both precious. We started texting more consistently and began video calls every couple of weeks. We have to coordinate around time zones, but we make it work. She is always the one to initiate the calls, and they typically last for 1 to 2 hours or more. Our conversations flow so beautifully beyond just catching up. We discuss goals, creative work, travel, religion, and politics, and it is my absolute favorite time. She frequently likes or comments on my stories on social media. Recently, she made comments during our calls here and there, such as that my eyes looked pretty, that my outfit looked nice, and that I could come stay with her anytime and she would love to cook for me. I have been feeling burnt out lately, and when I expressed this, she said she would wrap me in a blanket, make me tea, and massage my hands until I fell asleep. I told her I would cry if anyone ever treated me like that. She just smiled. Now everything seems wonderful, except she really is a terrible texter. It often takes at least a day for her to respond, and sometimes it stretches close to a week. Then she will be good for a while and revert back to being unresponsive. She has mentioned before that she is not great at texting, but I find it hard to believe she would like me if she takes so long to get back to me. When she texts me, my heart leaps at the notification, and I just want to stop what I'm doing to reply. I do think there is some truth to the idea that if someone wanted to, they would communicate more consistently. But the signals I am receiving are so contradictory that I am left thoroughly confused. Is she just a flirty European? I will admit that I haven't returned much flirting, if that is what it is, because I am unsure. I freeze up and become quite shy. However, I blush and I believe she can see this over video. But I cannot imagine her having feelings for me, then seeing my text and taking 5 days to respond. Perhaps she wants to give a thoughtful reply. I can be slow to respond to friends and family, but a crush is different. I cannot believe how enamored I am with her. She is so intelligent, kind, soft, and stunning. She is genuinely funny and is not afraid to be dorky or silly in front of others. She is unapologetically herself. I find it hard to believe she would have any interest in me, even as a friend, let alone romantically. She is perfect to me. I want to cook with her and cuddle on the couch after our shifts. I want to wake up next to her and make her coffee in the mornings the way she likes it, travel with her, and teach her how to drive my car. I long for someone to finally watch sunsets with. I am a strong advocate for finding yourself and learning to be independent while single, etc. However, I have backpacked through over 50 countries, stayed in hostels, slept on floors, worked in numerous countries, and met and befriended people from all walks of life. Out of all the souls I have encountered on my adventures, hers is the most radiant to me. I also think I would finally like to know what sharing feels like. I want to tell her I want to be honest and open, but I am so afraid of ruining the friendship we have. I do not want things to become awkward or for the air to shift. I fear ruining this dynamic because even if it remains a friendship, I would cherish it forever. However, I will tell her eventually. I will see her in a few months as we are sharing a hotel for work. I will say something. I just wanted feedback from an outside perspective before I go about this. Anyway, if you have read this far, I commend you and thank you. I welcome any opinions, advice, critiques, or anything else. I am sure there are things I have missed, but I just needed to get this off my chest, so even if I am speaking into the void, I am still grateful.